Taming the High Cost of College, Episode 108.
You have kids, they grow up, and before you know it, it's time to plan for college.
Where do you start?
How much is it going to cost?
Will you qualify for financial aid?
Should you be looking into scholarships?
When will you be able to retire?
What about student loans?
The list of questions is never ending. The good news is, all the answers are right here. Welcome to the Taming the High Cost of College podcast. Here is your host, certified financial planner, Brad Baldridge.
Hello and welcome to Taming the High Cost of College. I'm your host, Brad Baldridge. Today we have a great interview with Mark Kantrowitz. And if you don't know who Mark is, he is actually one of the internet gurus when it comes to college planning, in that he founded some of the most popular websites out there when it comes to college planning. So he's been involved in CapEx and FastWeb and finaid.org and all kinds of great endeavors out there on the web. So we're going to learn a ton. He's been involved in higher education for 20 plus years, and he has a lot of good information for parents and students as far as how to plan and pay for college. Before we jump into that, we also on Brad's Recommends, we're going to talk about college visits and how to take advantage of college visits and do your visit planning the right way. As always, show notes are available at tamingthehighcostofcollege.com, where you can get links to all the relevant information that's being covered here. I appreciate you listening, and let's go ahead and jump into Brad Recommends.
The latest tips, tricks, and tools you can use today. This is Brad Recommends on Taming the High Cost of College.
Today on Brad Recommends, I want to talk about college visits. Most families need to do their visit planning and visit work as one of the first things they do as far as college planning is concerned, especially as far as the student is concerned. One of the first things you will be doing is organizing and visiting colleges. So let's start with talking about the types of visits that are out there. Okay, so first you could do what I call the stealth visit. The stealth visit is where you drive onto a college campus, you get out, you look at a bunch of old buildings, you get back in the car, you drive off campus. Nobody knows you were there. You didn't get a lot of information. You just got a very basic feel of the campus. Now, for some families, this makes sense, especially early on. If you happen to be going to a particular college, let's say you're for extracurriculars in high school, maybe there's a track meet or some sort of sporting event at a particular college, or maybe a band or summer camp, or all different reasons you might be on campus already, spending a few minutes looking around may be a good thing to do. But stealth visits are really only appropriate maybe sophomore and early junior year when you're first starting things out. Next, we have the open house. Now, a lot of colleges offer open houses on weekends and variations, tours and open houses, and they have different names. But essentially what they're doing is encouraging families to come and check out their campus. So they may have a focus, like a particular major, an engineering day or a nursing day, or that might be just a general visit opportunity. But oftentimes they're going to have organized tours, they're going to have faculty and staff available for questions, and it's a great way for families, especially, again, when you're starting out, to learn a little bit about a college. And often I recommend families plug into an open house at the local colleges, even if they're not necessarily ones you're ultimately going to attend. But it's a good way to learn the process and get a feel for what a tour and open house is all about. So open houses are nice in that often you can do them on a weekend and you don't have to spend a vacation day. The downside of an open house is there's a lot of people there and you don't get a lot of individual attention. Next, we have the scheduled visit and tour. Most colleges will also offer a more one-on-one experience or one-on-just a few experience, where if you call the campus and schedule a meeting, you can talk to somebody in admissions, typically in their office, and then take some sort of tour and learn more about the college. And it might be by appointment or it might be on particular days. Many colleges will offer some sort of, you schedule something, you come and visit for the day, and they show you the things that you're interested in, and they take you to visit the faculty that you have appointments with, and you can make a day visit and schedule that. So again, most colleges offer this. You just need to call and schedule it or learn how their exact process works. So those are typically what you're going to be doing as a junior and early senior. as you're trying to figure out what colleges you're going to apply to. But in addition to those types of visits, we also have accepted senior visits, which are available kind of later in the process. So just so you're aware of these types of visits, because again, for many families, you may visit more than once to a particular school. You may have done an open house at a particular college, early in your junior year, and now you might go back for what we would call the accepted senior visit. Again, a lot of colleges have weekend days or weekdays set aside where they're encouraging all accepted students to come and visit, and they have a more detailed program where they talk about some of the details that may not have been in some of the other visits that you participated in. And then finally, we would have the overnight. Again, many colleges will offer families to have the student come to the college and stay overnight. And this is an opportunity to really get a feel for the college, where you may be paired with a student and living in a dorm for the night and really going to classes and getting a feel for the overall campus, etc. Again, a lot of colleges encourage this as well because they know if you're interested enough and they get you on campus, it's likely that you will sign up and go to that college if you have a positive experience during that visit. So those are the types of visits that families can get involved in. I encourage families to start working on what I call a visit plan. And it really depends on your student and family and what's going on. But as an example, some families say, well, we're going to go to the local college. We're going to pick between 2 or 3 colleges right here in town. And if that's your situation, then visit planning isn't that big a deal. There's not much travel, et cetera, et cetera. But some families are going to say, well, we need to go to California to look at colleges. We need to go to Texas to look at some colleges, and then the East Coast as well. And now we're talking about travel plans and road trips and taking vacation time for the parents and time off of school for the students. So now it makes sense to do more planning and really understand, well, how many visits do we need to do and how are we going to get them on the schedule? How do we coordinate time off? So a quick hint there is have parents plan vacation time around school time off. So pull out the calendar for the school, pull out your work calendars, and coordinate things so that during high school spring break, you may have an opportunity to go and do college visits, and you don't have a work meeting scheduled during that week that's too important to miss. Or other teacher conferences, or there's random Mondays and Fridays off at many high schools, and take advantage of that and schedule your visits around that. Then the other topic I wanted to talk about is direct admit. Direct admit is a concept where, as an incoming freshman to a college, you will be admitted directly into a particular program or benefit. So a direct admit, as an example, direct admit physical therapy is available at many schools, where you start as an incoming freshman, and as long as you maintain your grades and do everything right, you will go directly to the physical therapy department and ultimately graduate with your physical therapy degree. And often this would be a master's or a PhD, but there's no hurdle to get over once you're direct admit. Other programs, they don't have direct admit, which means maybe as a sophomore, you have to apply to get into a particular college or a particular program. And there may be an opportunity where you don't make it because of grades or other reasons. So direct admit has a value, and I think a lot of families are starting to look at it, and you really need to be aware of it and look into it. And direct admit would apply often in areas like medical professions, like physical therapy and actually medical doctor, dentistry, those types of things may have some direct admit. And all the other support, physical therapy assistant, there's all kinds of different areas. Also areas like engineering and business, and some of those where sometimes you're admitted directly into the engineering school on day one, and sometimes you have to compete and then ultimately get into the school as a sophomore or junior. For some families, having that direct admit and knowing for certain you're going to get to the degree that you want is worth choosing that school over another school where you may have to compete. So that's direct admit. If you're interested in direct admit, you need to start asking those types of questions as you do your visits and other information as far as your program and your potential major. All right, that's all we have for Brad Recommends. Let's go ahead and jump into the interview with Mark. All right, today we're sitting down with Mark Kantrowitz. He is an author, speaker, and overall expert. He's been involved in founding websites like FinAid and FastWeb. He's currently part of CapEx. So, welcome, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
So, you've been involved a lot in the higher education space for many, many years. And at a pretty high level, and kind of laying the groundwork and writing some of the research and doing all kinds of great things. Can you give us a little bit of your history as how you kind of got into the higher education space?
Well, I was one of those kids who won a gazillion dollars in scholarships. I was a little bit of a math prodigy, and I had compiled a list of scholarships for math and science students that I updated over the years, and then somehow Prentice Hall heard about it and asked if I'd like to put it in book form. That book came out in 1992, just as the web was starting. And rather than answer the questions I was receiving again and again by email, I responded by creating a web page and telling people your question is answered by this web page. Here's how you get out on the web. And then I started proactively answering questions before they were asked. And then the website took on a life of its own and became FinAid. FinAid later was joined by FastWeb, and in the late 1990s, I had a choice to make between publishing the websites and my day job as a research scientist. I ultimately decided to quit my job as a research scientist to focus on the websites because I felt I would do more good for society helping people figure out how to pay for college than building a better web search engine.
All right. Well, great. Well, I really appreciate all your hard work because I think it is helping a lot of people. So you're involved, I guess one of the organizations you're involved with is the National Scholarship Providers Association. And I know you've done some research on scholarships. So can you give us a kind of an update on the lay of the land as far as what types of scholarships are out there and how big the industry is and some of those statistics that you've done some research on?
Well, there are about $6 billion worth of scholarships awarded each year to about just under 2 million students. They span everything from academic scholarships and other unusual talents such as athletic talent, artistic talent, or creating a prom costume out of duct tape, as well as need-based grants such as the institutional aid and as well as the federal Pell Grant, which is by far the largest source of gift aid, money that does not need to be earned or repaid.
Okay, so that big number, the $6 billion, includes federal money as well as...
It does not include the federal money. This is purely private scholarships from non-federal, non-institutional sources.
So I guess for people that are kind of new out there, there's kind of three main sources of free money. It's the federal government, it's private scholarships, and it's scholarships from the schools that you're actually attending. Do you have any idea how much schools are handing out these days?
Almost as much as the federal government, but it's a little bit of a misnomer to say that they are giving it out because that suggests that it's coming from their endowment. The reality is that most of the money that's coming from the colleges is in the form of a discount. They're taking the tuition money that they are receiving and they're giving some of it back to the students in the form of grants. The discount rate at private nonprofit colleges is approaching 50% for freshman students these days. So at higher cost private nonprofit colleges, the net price may be as little as half of the sticker price.
Right. And that's also average numbers. Again, since you're a mathematician, do you have any ideas as far as how the dispersion is on that? As far as, everybody says, well, the average this and the average that, but most people aren't average. So you understand the question is like...
Yes. About 1 in 8 students receives private scholarship money that they use to help pay for college. And the average amount received is just under $4,000. Students who win a completely free ride are less than 1% of the undergraduate student population. So winning a scholarship is part of your plan for paying for college, but it's not the entire plan. It's very rare for someone to win uh, enough scholarship and grant money to cover all college costs.
Right. And I tell a similar story in that I've worked with hundreds of families one-on-one, and I can count on one hand the number of families that work hard in scholarships and won significant money. There's lots of families out there that win one or two, maybe a little above average or below average, the 1,000 here, the 1,000 there, or maybe a 5,000 or 10,000. To win that $160,000 or whatever it takes to pay your whole way is rare. People that do it are like Mark, who then go on and write books about it and become famous, so to speak.
Now, families have a tendency to underestimate eligibility for need-based aid and overestimate eligibility for merit-based aid. Everybody should file the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA form, because it is your gateway to need-based aid from the federal government, from state governments, and all but about 200 mostly private colleges. Those colleges use a different form called the CSS Financial Aid Profile Form.
Right. Okay. So as you've been doing been involved in the Scholarship Association, where do you see scholarships going as far as things like automation, and are there quote unquote hidden scholarships still, or are most of them available now on the big websites?
Scholarships generally don't go unclaimed. The ones that go unclaimed do so because they can't be claimed, not because of a lack of awareness. With the advent of free scholarship matching services, such as first there was fastweb.com, now there's capex.com/scholarships, College Board, Peterson's, there's a whole bunch of free scholarship matching services. Almost every scholarship that's out there is listed in at least one, if not several, of these databases. So usually the scholarship providers have too many qualified applicants as opposed to too few. There are a few examples of scholarships that occasionally go unclaimed. A good example of this is the ZOLP scholarship, ZOLP. It's for a student who was born with a last name of Zolp. That name has to appear on your birth certificate and your christening certificate. It's tenable only at Loyola University of Chicago. And most years they have one or two students, but some years they have none. And you can't qualify for this by changing your name. So this money goes unclaimed because it can't be claimed. The only form of financial aid that routinely goes unclaimed because the students either are unaware of it or don't apply for it is the federal Pell Grant. Some students do not file the FAFSA, and approximately 2 million of those who don't file the FAFSA each year would have qualified for the federal Pell Grant, and of them, 1.3 million would have qualified for the maximum federal Pell Grant. So it's an opportunity that students are missing out on because they don't apply. You can't win money if you don't apply for it. They need to file the FAFSA every single year, even if the last year they got nothing other than these student loans.
Right. So I guess going back to this ZOLP then, so there are some rules. So if you were wanting to be a little aggressive in your scholarship process, you'd need to name your baby on the birth certificate in order to qualify.
Yeah, and theoretically, if you change your last name to Zolp before you had a baby, then the baby's name would be Zolp. And maybe that would work. I'd have to check the rules for that particular scholarship to see if that would qualify. And that's only if your child's going to go to that particular university.
Right, exactly. But I guess I see parents doing a lot of things at a lot of different levels, from, quote unquote, the stories of getting into the right kindergarten so that we can get into the right grade school, to the right high school, to the right college. What's your opinion on that, kind of the arms race of name brand versus state school, or even just other privates, and how do parents navigate that?
Well, you get almost as good a quality education, and sometimes a better quality education, at an in-state public college than you would at a high-cost private nonprofit college. If you go to the website payscale.com, they have a return on investment report. You have to search for it a little bit to find it, which allows you to rank colleges and degree programs by the total dollar return on investment or the percentage return on investment. And if you rank the colleges based on the dollar return on investment, you find the usual suspects. The most selective private nonprofit colleges, such as the Ivy League schools, are ranked at the top. But if you scroll down a little bit, you find that just below them, in terms of total dollar return on investment, are in-state public colleges. Now, if instead you look at it from the percentage return on investment, the in-state public colleges are all at the top because they're giving almost as good total return on investment over your lifetime, but at half the price. So you can end up getting a great quality education at a bargain price by going to your in-state public college. So I recommend that every student, when searching for colleges, include the in-state public college as one of the colleges to which they're applying, so that they have that as an option. Think of it as a financial aid safety school, a school where you're more likely to get in, and if you do get in, you could afford to attend even if you got no financial aid.
Absolutely. Again, going back to the scholarships in the private schools and kind of the name brand issue, do some of the name brand schools provide more or less aid because of their endowments? People have heard rumors of, if you can get into Harvard, you don't have to worry about paying for it. Do you agree with that?
Well, there are 6 colleges that have no loans financial aid policies, and this includes the entire Ivy League, MIT, Stanford, and similar colleges. Instead of your financial aid package, including loans, they substitute grants. So your net price of the college, that's the sticker price minus the grants. And that's really a better reflection of your real college costs than focusing on the sticker price, is going to be a lot less expensive. At Princeton University, the college that started this trend, the average debt at graduation of those who graduate with student loans is less than $6,000. That's less expensive than many in-state public colleges. On the other hand, these are very selective institutions, and it is difficult to get into them. And in some cases, they have single-digit acceptance rates.
Right, exactly. So I guess the point being at the very high end, if you can get accepted, which is a big if for many families, but if you could make it happen, sometimes the money will fall in line pretty well. What about on the other end of the spectrum? We hear stories of some colleges struggling and closing every year now, primarily due to declining enrollments and things like that. Do you feel like there's things that should be avoided on the other end of choosing a college and the price that you pay?
And so, first of all, just to reemphasize, your cheapest options are going to be either one of these no-loan colleges or an in-state public college. The colleges that you're referring to, in every year there are a few that struggle, that either end up shutting down, usually with a teach out so that their current students aren't stranded, or they merge with a nearby college. And these tend to be small enrollment, less than 1,000 students, tuition-dependent colleges, so they don't have big endowments. They tend to not be well-known nationally, and so they have a problem attracting enough students. Every year, maybe 1 or 2 such colleges fails, and sometimes they're very small mom-and-pop colleges like beauty schools or massage therapy schools. But occasionally you have a more well-known college. If current trends continue, I'd expect in probably about 2 decades, we're going to see an increase in the number of colleges that have this problem because they're reaching the point of diminishing returns, where if they increase their tuition, they have to give back almost an entire increase in the form of financial aid, or they won't be able to attract enough students.
Right. So I'm going to have you put on your forecasting hat a little bit here, and there's a lot of change going on in the world, and with this most recent presidential election, free college came up at one point. Whether or not that was tenable or not, I guess I'd ask your opinion of that as well. But what do you see coming up in the short-term future, the next 5 or 10 years, that might be a little bit different than the way it is today?
Well, I like the idea of free college in that it'll make college a lot more affordable for low-income students and eliminate some of the barriers that the high cost, high aid model introduces. One has to realize that the free college isn't entirely free. It's just free tuition. I put out a paper a while ago where I advocated for free tuition and free textbooks at public colleges and showed that it would be possible to accomplish this without increasing taxes in any way, simply by reallocating the existing money that's spent on financial aid to the public colleges. Right now, it's spread among public and private colleges, and the private colleges get disproportionate shares of grant aid because they're higher cost. Financial need is based on the difference between the cost of attendance and the expected family contribution. So all else being equal, a higher cost college, that same student's going to demonstrate higher financial need and therefore get more financial aid. That doesn't necessarily seem to be an optimal way of distributing the money. If we were to take that same money and apply it to a lower cost public college, it would go a lot further in enabling more low-income students to obtain a college education, also more middle-income students. It's an interesting idea. I thought that it would have challenges getting through Congress, regardless of which party was in control of Congress. At this point, with President-elect Trump, he stated quite clearly that he opposes free public tuition. So it does not seem likely that it would be brought up during his administration. He hasn't said a lot about his positions on paying for college, other than one speech where he proposed a variation on income-driven repayment. Currently, income-driven repayment bases your monthly payment on a percentage of discretionary income, either 15% under income-based repayment or 10% under pay-as-you-earn repayment. And the repayment term lasts for 25 or 20 years, depending on which repayment plan. He proposed 12.5% for 15 years, which surprisingly is actually more expensive to the federal government than even pay-as-you-earn repayment. Remains to be seen what will actually get enacted. And presidential candidates often make lots of promises, some of which get implemented and some of which do not.
Right, absolutely. All right, so what about other things like online classes or online colleges? Every once in a while, there's a big article in a magazine that talks about they're coming and they're going to disrupt. So far, we haven't seen a lot of that, but you think they are coming, and will they disrupt?
Well, there's magical claims that this is going to completely change the higher education environment. But there's a fundamental reason why your typical, even brick and mortar college has a particular student faculty ratio or class size, and has had that class size for over 100 years. And that's because learning is difficult, it is interactive. And so even though a MOOC or other online education has promise of scalability, that you have one master professor videotape their lectures and make them available to everybody, you still need someone, maybe a graduate teaching assistant or maybe a faculty member, interacting with the students who has real knowledge about what it is that the students aren't understanding and why they're not understanding, so that they can work with them to help them understand. And so for online education to dramatically reduce the cost, you'd have to somehow be able to automate that. And that's the traditional artificial intelligence problem. I mean, we still don't have computer programs that can grade anything other than a multiple choice test automatically. We're not going to have online interactive teaching assistants that are effective for at least 50 years. So there's a lot of promise. There's also a lot of hype. And the reality right now on the ground is that most students do not benefit from online education. And there's some nice tools out there like edX and MITx where you can get lectures for free. They're used by many students as supplemental material. If they're having trouble understanding a particular topic, they search for a video of a professor at another college explaining that particular topic, and that helps them a lot. Most of the people who actually get through all the way to the end at one of these MOOCs, these massive online colleges, where 100,000 students start taking a class and ultimately only 100 students finish, they tend to be people who already have college degrees. So there's a lot of promise, but it has yet to fulfill that promise.
Right. So you don't see it as being a path for the typical student other than maybe a supplement or extra help and that type of thing.
Yeah, I don't think right now it's realizing its promise. Eventually it may. I think that you really have to be a self-starter to benefit from online education. That if you need someone to interact with you, it's going to be a lot more challenging.
Right. So here's something that I struggle with a little bit, and I want to get your opinion on as well. When I'm working with a typical family of a high school junior, it's pretty comfortable to kind of project the system as we have it now into the future and say, well, this is your likely financial aid, and here's how you save and invest, and here's how the system kind of works, and we can kind of project that system onto your future. But if I'm talking with a family that has a 1-year-old or 2-year-old, or it doesn't yet have kids, and now we're talking their education is going to be 20 years out, I have a harder time giving them any sort of advice because I think the landscape as we know it is going to change. I don't know how, but it seems untenable that the prices keep going up as they have. What is your thought on how things might change or be the same, or what would your advice be to a parent of a 1-year-old?
Oh, and I would try to avoid giving them sticker shock. And the cost of a college education increases by a factor of 3 over any 17-year period. And so if you take current prices and you scale them up 17 years into the future, you're going to get a cost of a college education that's $500,000, which it's a big total and has a lot of shock value. Of course, you're not mentioning that the average income may be $100,000 then. And so everybody is looking at that in terms as though it were today's numbers. So let's take that factor of 3 figure and combine it with the 1/3 rule, which is that you really only need to save about 1/3 of future college costs, because like any major life cycle event, you don't pay for it all at once. You spread it out over time. So 1/3 will come from past income in the form of savings, 1/3 from current income, and 1/3 from future income in the form of loans. And the examples that people give, it's like saying that projecting the future costs of real estate and saying you're going to buy a home in 17 years and it's going to cost you $1 million. Well, everybody would have sticker shock then. Now, given that we have a factor of 3 increase and the 1/3 rule, 3 times 1/3 is 1, that suggests that your college savings goal should be the current cost of an entire college education. Now, you probably can't predict whether your child's going to go to an in-state public college, an out-of-state public college, or a private nonprofit college, a specific college, but you can probably get the sense of whether it's public or private. And given this, you can, instead of focusing on the big net price figure or the sticker price, let's focus on baby steps. How much do you need to save per month to reach that goal? So based on current costs of an in-state public college, out-of-state public college, and private nonprofit college, from birth, you should save about $250 a month for an in-state public college, $400 a month for an out-of-state public college, and $500 a month for a private nonprofit college. And that's still large, but it's more manageable. I mean, it's about the cost of a year of diapers each year, which also suggests a strategy, which is when your baby no longer needs a particular expense, like diapers or daycare, you redirect the money that you otherwise would have been spending on that to the college savings plan. And maybe you can't save $250 a month. Maybe all you can save is $50 a month. Well, it's more important that you get started, because once you get used to having that money taken out of your bank account each month, your budget will have adapted and you will find it easier to increase the amount you save. Maybe you got a bonus or a raise at work. You can put, say, half of that money into college savings plans. Making the saving automatic is a key step in making it much easier to save.
Yes, I would agree with that. And another avenue that I tell people is you need to kind of rank what's important. And if college is important and or a new home or early retirement, if the goals are important, if you put them at the top of the list and pay those first and spend what's left, it's again, it's not rocket science. It's just a tough discipline for most families.
And automating the process helps a lot of people a lot, because otherwise you find when it comes time to contribute money to the college savings plan, like a 529 plan, you've already spent the money. Managing money and financial literacy is a challenge for many people, and not just the students, also the parents. So I strongly recommend that we incorporate financial literacy training into the secondary school curriculum, and that we also have courses for parents on how to manage money, how to save for an expense instead of borrowing for it, getting an intuitive understanding of debt so that if you borrow twice as much, your monthly payment will be twice as much, unless you increase the term of the loan, in which case you're actually increasing the amount that you have to pay back over the life of the loan.
Right, absolutely. All right, well, you've given us a lot of great advice. If people want to learn more and continue to follow, some of your writing, etc., how can they stay in touch with you?
Okay, so I am publisher of cappex.com, CAPPEX.com, which is a free website about planning and paying for college. We have a fair number of articles on the site, but they're not currently visible from the front door of the site. They will be soon. So right now, if you look for it, you'll find our blog, which is old, but we do have over 270 articles on the site that are brand new, completely up to date, and we are going to be increasing the amount of content on the site substantially in 2017. The website also has a lot of good resources for college admission, finding colleges that are a good match for you. We have our scattergrams, which let you compare your GPA and SAT or ACT scores to other students who have been admitted to that college. We have our WAMC tool, our What Are My Chances tool, where you can give a lot of details about your background, and we estimate what your chances are of admission. And generally, we have these tools that try to match you with the right mix of colleges. I mean, not just reaching schools, but also good matches and safety schools, so that you apply to a mix of colleges where you have a good chance of getting in.
Right. So is this material focused towards students or parents or both?
It's available and of interest to both students and parents. Also, you even have sections that are devoted to policymakers. I've written quite a number of student aid policy analysis papers that talk about what is reasonable debt, how to optimize college savings, recommendations of new features for various plans, many of which have eventually gotten implemented. Most recent of which I first proposed prior year, where the FAFSA would be based on 2-year-old information instead of 1-year-old information back in 1996. And now we have, for the first time, the FAFSA for 2017-18 is based on 2015 income data, so that most people who file the FAFSA can have the information transferred from their federal income tax return to the FAFSA instead of having to re-enter that information. It makes the process a lot easier, a lot smoother, and eliminates the need for verification, which is kind of like an audit process.
Right, absolutely. So when do you recommend parents and or students plug into the college process? Like, what's a good age or a good grade level to start working on CapEx or other fast web or some of these other things? Do you think you'd start as a parent of a freshman, sophomore, junior?
Well, I'd recommend starting to familiarize yourself with it as soon as possible, because financial aid is like speaking a foreign language. It's got an alphabet soup of acronyms like FAFSA and SAR and SAP that can be intimidating to families. So the more you learn about it, the easier the process will be. There are also many scholarships that are available before the high school year, or the senior year in high school. For example, there's a scholarship from Jif Peanut Butter for making a sandwich out of peanut butter. Top prize is $25,000.
Wow. Okay.
And that's open to even very young children. There is a scholarship for Mibsters, which are kids who play with marbles. Google has their Doodle for Google, where you decorate the Google logo as a scholarship that's available to younger children. There are quite a few of these scholarships that are available when you're younger. And so you should start searching for them as soon as possible. Now, you'll encounter a problem, which is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act precludes collecting information from children under age 13 without verifiable parental consent. So all the scholarship databases won't let you register if you're age 13 and under. There are, however, lists of scholarships for younger children available online on many websites. I've compiled this list multiple times. So the sooner you start searching for scholarships, the fewer deadlines you're going to miss.
Right. So essentially, if you're listening to this, it's time to get started at whatever age
Absolutely.
you happen to be. Okay. But would you agree? And I guess what I find is parents that have the opinion that college starts end of junior year, perhaps, and through the senior year, and that's running things a little late, typically, with what's going on today.
Yeah, and I would encourage them to start sooner, and many families are starting in the sophomore year in high school. For financial aid planning, with the switch to prior year, if you're going to sell stocks to raise money to pay for college, you should do so before January 1st of the sophomore year in high school, so that the capital gains don't artificially increase your income. So, and it really does need to, the planning does need to start sooner.
Right. All right. Again, I appreciate it. Is there any way that people can follow you directly as well, as far as are you out there on Twitter or any other?
My Twitter handle is at mkant, MKANT. Whenever I publish a new article, I usually post a link on Twitter, so that's a good way to follow my writing. I also have my policy analysis papers are all collected at studentaidpolicy.com.
Okay. Well, great. I really appreciate all the great information, and I appreciate all the hard work you do in higher ed. So I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That was a great interview with Mark. I really do appreciate all the hard work he does out there in the industry, and he's been providing great information for free for years and years and years. So we really appreciate that. As always, show notes are available. Taming the High Cost of College /108 is where this episode can be found. So please check it out there. And if you have questions or comments, feel free to send us an email, give us a call, whatever it is that you'd like to do to get back to us. And we'd greatly appreciate hearing from the listeners. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Taming the High Cost of College podcast. Now it's time for you to take action. Head to tamingthehighcostofcollege.com for show notes, bonus content, and to leave feedback for Brad. The next step on your college journey starts now.
Brad Baldridge is a registered representative of Cambridge Investment Research and an investment advisor representative of Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a broker-dealer and member of FINRA and SIPC. Brad owns two companies, Baldridge Wealth Management and Baldridge College Solutions. The Baldridge companies are not affiliated with Cambridge Investment Research.